I'm going to show you my visuals now because I don't have something to put them on, but I'll have these on a PowerPoint when I'm doing my presentation, and they'll obviously be in color as well. And here are these two. Have you or anyone you know ever received a concussion? I have, and I find it essential that as athletes, we improve the quality of treatment so the horrible side effects they have on people can diminish. Everyone should feel pretty strongly toward trying to fix treatment and horrible effects concussions can have. I know multiple people in this class are athletes or are in majors that are going to enter the health field, so I think people will be interested in it. I've had multiple concussions myself, as well as the extremely credible sources I'm using. I'm going to inform the students on symptoms that can affect them when they get a concussion. I'm also going to explain how treatment today is and what doctors and athletes can do to make recovering from a concussion a lot more simple. Concussions can be extremely severe or very mild. Regardless of the degree of concussion, it's very important to pay close attention to the symptoms that you may be experiencing and treat them appropriately. So to start, we're going to go over how you can get a concussion and what symptoms you can have when you get a concussion. Whether you're an athlete or not, you're always at a decently high risk of getting a concussion. TBI is also known as a concussion. It's a sudden injury from an external force that affects functioning of the brain. It can be caused by a bump or blow to the head. So some examples of common ways to get concussions outside of sports are bumping your head, falling unexpectedly, car accidents with the whiplash, and then common ones for sports are, hard blows in football, going for headers in soccer, or even basketball or volleyball, hitting your head on the court. If you've ever experienced a concussion, you know it's extremely serious, and there are a lot of uncomfortable symptoms that can follow. Some concussion symptoms that you may experience are unconsciousness after the blow, headaches or confusion, nausea, dizziness, fatigue, glazed over eyes, amnesia of the event. When athletes go back playing too soon, they can and then get hit in the head again, you can experience post-concussion syndrome. These symptoms that you'll experience once you get this are very similar to concussion ones. They're just for when, in the distance of when you've done it. So it's constant headaches, irritability increases, you've had loss of concentration and memory, your anxiety increase, and you're also more sensitive to light and noise. So with all that being said, you might wonder how these concussions are treated. So athletes are treated for concussions in two separate ways. They take a physical test as well as a test on the computer called the impact test. The physical test includes vital signs, balance, speech and gait analysis, and musculoskeletal and neurological exam. The impact test is a program that to see where the athlete's brain and what information it's absorbing. So I know the University of Findlay does it. I've done it here multiple times. Rothman Institute, as well as all collegiate athletes and high school teams mostly use this test, and it's to see how serious the injury is. So when you begin the program, you'll most likely take the test, and you'll give yourself a baseline score. So then when you get a concussion the next time, when you test, if you're below that baseline, you know that you have a concussion, and you can see how serious it is. Athletes are not allowed to play again until they pass, or at least score their baseline score or pass it. Once they do this, then they can have a 3-day recovery. So for my personal example, being able to play soccer again, my 3-day recovery consisted of the first day was a light jog or a light bike ride to just get your heart rate back up. If you can go through that day without any symptoms coming back, you can go to day 2, which is, like for me, it would be running and playing with the ball for a little longer period of time. Once you get through that with no concussions, you can move on, or with no symptoms coming back, you can move on to day 3, which is allowing contact again. But at practice, when you're there, your trainer should pay very close attention to make sure you're not showing any more signs, as well as you being true to yourself and saying you're not experiencing any more symptoms. So this seems like a pretty safe recovery routine, don't you think? So why do we think so many athletes are struggling with post-concussion syndrome? Athletes and trainers really need to focus on working together to make sure that athletes are completely safe to go back to play so they don't experience post-concussion syndrome. I have two examples of great athletes that treated their concussions very differently. Elena Myers-Taylor was treated for a concussion, and she thought she was ready to return back to, she was a bobsledder, so she thought she was ready to return back to practice, and she took another blow to the head and she realized she needed to take a step back. She says, "I'm a world champion athlete sidelined by an invisible injury." This shows how frustrating it can be because it's not something you can see, your leg's broken. You really have to listen to what your body's telling you if you're okay or not. She stresses that if something doesn't feel right, you have to stop and there's no reason to push through a head injury. Since she took a step back and treated her symptoms the way she should, she's now competing in the Olympic Games. Mike Webster is the second athlete I have. He was a former Pittsburgh Steelers center and did not treat his injuries the way he should have. This led him to live an extremely devastating life. He played in a total of 220 games. That's the most in Steelers history. This seems like a great thing, but most people don't look at it as that every single game he took pounds to the head. The more and more this happened, the faster his life slipped away. He experienced horrible symptoms. One of his former teammates, Rocky Belair, said his bell got rung all the time, just like the rest of us. That's not a good thing. Webster was never officially treated for a concussion. Ralph Berlin said he never complained about anything like this. He was never treated for one. And this is an unacceptable fact. As a result of not treating his concussions, Mike's life fell apart quickly before he died. He experienced dementia, unexplainable anger, loss of motivation, and last but not least, fatal brain damage that led to his death, unfortunately. Webster lost his battle to post-concussion syndrome, but Elena Myers-Taylor set a great example for all athletes today. It is extremely important to put your health first so you can continue to be successful in your passion. When you experience a serious blow to the head, it is crucial to pay attention to the concussion symptoms you may be experiencing. Dizziness, headache, fatigue may not seem like a huge deal at the time, but now that you know what those small symptoms are doing to your brain in the big picture, it should cause you to be more cautious about it. Post-concussion syndrome can be prevented when concussion symptoms are treated correctly. This is very simple. If you don't take it from me, take it from Elena and Mike Webster's example. Who would you rather end up like?